Good morning, Hope Outdoor family. My name is Shane Breland. I'm here with OP Thomas here to go over the demonstration of the HQ100, the device we use for our most complex hunters out there. We're here this morning. I'm going to show you a demonstration on how to set it up properly, how to use the iScopes or the new scope cameras that we got. First, we're going to start out by the setup of it. OP purchased this new Workbench here. That's been an awesome addition to the setup of these HQ100s. We're going to use it today for this demonstration purposes, but they're also used on wheelchairs or anything like that. This gives us the benefit of getting the device away from the hunter to where the hunter won't shake in its chair and make everything shake with it. So this is one of the best setups that I've seen that we can use for the HQ100 platform. We're going to start out, you got to have the base plate. The base plate's the key to this whole thing. This base plate, generally, if you're using a wheelchair, slides up under the seat of their wheelchair. Our track chairs, the seats do not come up, so we would have to actually put another pad on top of this if you're sliding this on the seat of a track chair. That way there's not that much pressure on the hunter themselves. You don't want to be sitting on a cold piece of metal during a hunt. So we start out with the base plate, and we're going to use a C-clamp or even a ratchet strap to strap this base plate to this table. It'll hold no matter what, either way, pretty easily. The biggest thing is you want to get it to where it does not move, or anything happens, you can move the whole table at one time instead of the device if you got to shift to one end or the other of the blind that you're in. Next, we're going to start with the bracket that actually holds the device on. This is adjustable, pretty simple to slide in here. You want to set the height up and make it to where it's actually where the hunter can see everything going on. No matter what we do with a device or any kind of tool or assisted aid device that we use to help these hunters, make sure they understand what we're using them, what we're doing with them, what they're going to be using, and make sure they're comfortable using that, because some hunters may not be. Make sure the families want to do it. You want to give the hunter the greatest experience they can have and not take over that situation yourself. All right, next we're going to have the full-on device come up here. We got a DVAR that goes through here that the device sits on. Slides into this mounting bracket right here. Don't like to slide very easily. And then you take the device itself, and it's got a hole on the base of it and two slots that slide over this bar right here. And once you match these up, this device is actually pretty heavy. So you got to think of the weight and the pressure that it's putting on the actual hunter. And makes it pretty tough sometimes for them to be sitting in a chair and holding that weight down. So this platform there again is a benefit to holding that weight for the hunter. All right, so now we got the whole device set up, okay? The device operates off of a battery, 12-volt battery, or as we've got 12-volt rechargeable packs that we use to operate the device on. Should have a pigtail with it. If it's not working, we carry extra fuses. This fuse in here may be the reason it's not working. This device has, if I turn it this way to where the camera can see, it has control knobs. These control knobs, if they're turned all the way down, the device won't work itself. Each one of these adjusts the speed of the up and down and left and right of the device. So once we get the device set up and it's in there, this bar right here adjusts. It's got just a simple push pin bracket. Goes in and out where you can adjust it for the length of the gun to set in. Now we're ready to place a gun in it. Here's your control head for it that controls the up and down, left and right, and the sip tube for whenever they want to fire the weapon. Most guns fit in this device, but not all guns, or this device does not like all triggers on all guns. I have found that your Ruger Americans, it does not like the trigger devices on them, and it will not fire a factory trigger on a Ruger. There's just not enough pressure. It's too stiff of a trigger, but it will operate off of most any other gun that I found in it. Once we get the gun locked into place, obviously Make sure the gun's clear before you do this. We're gonna set the trigger in place. Make sure it's set up at the proper height. This trigger's got a couple adjustments up and down. And then we got a forward and backwards. It'll rotate into place. Get it lined up with it. Raise it up to the proper height. I like to set the trigger, if I'm gonna use a trigger device, I like to set the trigger just off, or the trigger activation device just off the trigger to where you can see a gap between it. That way you know it's gonna actually hit the trigger where it needs to, and it won't lock up against the trigger. As you can see here, I am using a semi-automatic in this device, and if it locks up against it, you know what's gonna happen. You're gonna get 2 shots back to back. Now the operation of this, as we said, we have these die-hard battery packs that we use to operate the device with now. Lightweight, can put them in your backpack, can tote them in a pocket. You're not toting a 12-volt battery with you to the woods. You're not having to hook these to the hunter's chair or anything like that. So it makes it pretty simple. Just get some clamps, put these clamps in here on the cord here, and now you should have power to your device. Anytime you move this device, you want to test it to make sure it works. You got your up and down function. Your left and right function. And as y'all can hear, this is pretty loud. You get into a tree stand and you got a very calm day, you're gonna hear this noise. So are the deer. So my suggestion is, once you get it in the device, get it pointed in the general direction, you can actually manipulate this, the whole setup, manually to get it close enough to the deer, and then let the hunter fine tune it with the device themselves if they can use that. If not, you can just manually do it and it'll cut down on a lot of the noise. All right, so we're ready to fire a weapon right here. But most of the time when we're using this device, we need an aid to help the guides and help the hunter see through the scope. Hope Outdoors has been very fortunate over the years to come up with a few items throughout our time. We've evolved in this situation where we've got the eye scopes, we've got the snake looks, and now we've got a new device that's got a built-in camera with it that works wonders. The iPhones and the eye scopes use your cell phones with them, and everybody carries a smartphone with them now. I'm gonna go over both setups with you. I'm gonna only put one on the gun today, but I wanna go over both of them with you because every one of them has a tendency to be different. We'll go over the eye scope, or the snake look first. As you can see, this device, it'll mount to the gun. It'll slide over the scope like this, and you'll tighten it down on the scope. I'm not gonna actually do this one because I'm gonna bring it off, but you use these screws to tighten it down over the scope. But the key to this one is every phone is different. If you can see through the lens of this, it's got a hole in there. That's where the camera lines up. If you're trying to do this indoors and you put your camera on, most phones have 3 cameras now. And you're like, well, which camera do I use? What I generally do is when I'm outside, it won't work indoors as easily. I'll zoom in to about where I think it's gonna change from one camera to the next. And then I'll take and put my finger over the cameras and find out, okay, that's my camera that I need right there in the middle. And I'll use that camera to put over the eye scope part or the snake look part. And when I get into the field, we'll adjust it and it'll zoom in, it'll be ready to go. And then we'll lock this in place and then you're ready to go. You'll set it up, you can see through it and everything. And that's how you do it. A lot of people get confused over the 3 cameras on the back of your phone or the 4 cameras. Some of them have 2. You just got to find which camera is going to work through the device on the zoom that you want. So that's the snake look used with a smartphone. And now we got this really cool device. I'm really not sure the name of it. It was
Best Sight or Night Vision.
Best Sight with night vision. It is illegal to use night vision in some states, so we do not recommend you using it if it's illegal in your state. This has a camera, which I love, mounts in the end of this device that slides over the scope. It's interchangeable. Right now I've got it in the one that looks similar to the eye scope or the snake look, or it's got another device that's got like pressure fittings on it that slides over the scope and tightens down. This one's simpler to me. I like using it, so that's the one I'm going to use today and get it all set up for us. As you can see, I've already prepped my scope on my rifle. I put a little bit of tape on there. It helps hold it, keeps from scarring up people's rifles. Some people are very picky about their gun and don't want any scars on their scope or anything. So it would help to have the tape already on there to kind of protect it for them. That way you don't get somebody mad at you for scarring it up. I like this also because anybody can set it up with ease. It's not as complicated. It quickly sets up. You'll set that on there. And I like this setup. What I usually do is I mount the camera screen. I mount it to the flashlight that comes with it, or infrared light rather. It gives you multiple mounting options from that point on. I like using the quick connector here that I can put on here. You can mount it on your scope. You can take this and mount it to a tripod beside the scope, or you can even mount it to the chair that they're sitting on. You're just limited to the range of the cord. When it's mounted to the gun, you may not have a follow-up shot as easily just because of the recoil of the gun gives it problems sometimes. Okay, now if you'll come around the backside, Opie, we'll get a film through looking through the scope. It's gonna be hard in here because you're so close to everything, but that's the general setup of it. Okay, these have an up and down. Get the crosshairs lined up. It's got a focus. And like I said, it's gonna be hard just because we're indoors, poor lighting. But in general, you'll see you'll be able to adjust it. You can see me making the adjustments on there. But there's a general setup. This gives everybody in the blind the opportunity to see what the crosshairs are on. And one thing about these devices, if you're looking from an angle, like I can come over here and stand, as long as I'm looking at the crosshairs are dead on with the gun. And as you saw, as I bumped this is kind of unstable a little bit, but it's a lot more stable on this than it is in a chair, because every time a hunter moves, it'll wiggle. And you don't want that right at shot time. Some of them jump whenever they pull the trigger. Some of them actually pull real hard whenever they pull the trigger. There's different tendencies that each hunter has, and that's something you want to test before you ever load the gun, is what their tendencies are to where you know how to react to it. A lot of times, and I don't have my shooting stick with me today, but I put a shooting stick right underneath this bar right here, and it'll just refirm it up. And it's easily to kind of pivot with you. On a single bipod or a single pod shooting stick, you can pivot with you and it'll hold the end of the gun pretty stable right there. Make sure your barrel is out of the shooting house. No matter what you're doing, make sure it's completely clear of the shooting house. Make sure it's not gonna hit anything, the blind or whatever you're in. Even if it's above the window and everything else, a gun going off inside a shooting house versus the barrel being outside the shooting house, that's a lot louder. And it will hurt whoever's in there, it will hurt their ears. We always take and strap down. This device has a piece of string attached to it. Make sure you strap the end of the rifle down. That way the recoil of the gun won't kick back up. And we'll just gently take the string just like this and make a little knot in it right here to tie it off. Just like that. All right, now we're ready to test the gun. Every time you set up this device, you want to test and make sure everything works. We've already moved the left and right and the up and down. If you have access to it, this is an oxygen tube that you can get. Most ambulance companies or fire departments should have some old oxygen tube or like a nasal cannula or something laying around that you can use to attach to the end of this tube right here. It extends this. You may have a hunter that really has a bad tendency to jump. You don't want them reaching up right here and grabbing the tube and trying to shoot with it. They may grab it really hard, and of course, every time you touch this, it shakes the device. You want to take the big end of the tube, wet your fingers a little bit, get that piece right there a little damp, and just kind of work it up into this tube to where it won't come off. This one here is not going to want to cooperate with me today, but that's fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it here, and I'm going to test the trigger. I've already cleared the gun. The gun is empty. Take it off safety, and the gun fires. The gun fires with very little force. I didn't even stick the tube in my mouth. I just held it in my hand and sucked on my hand, and it operates the tube. So it's really, really sensitive, but it don't have quite enough power to, like I said earlier, activate some triggers. And if you do have it too close to it, you will get a double shot out of an automatic, or you got a happy hunter and you don't take the tube away from him real quick, you will get a double shot. People pick on me for using my Alt-6, semi-automatic Alt-6, but guess what? It's worked many a times. So that's how to properly set up the HQ100 device. This is a simple setup. People get kind of scared of it because it looks too technical, but it's really simple. It's got a trigger device. It's got a couple of controls that goes up and down, left and right. It's got a battery connection to it, a stand to put it on, and hook a scope camera to it. We want to give every hunter the perfect opportunity, the most opportunity to build a harvesting animal on any hunt that we're on, and this is one way to do it. There are hunters out there that cannot even sit up in their chairs, but we can carry them hunting with the aid of this HQ100. I have seen hunters that cannot have no function of their arms, no function of their legs, can't even hardly move their head up and down. Use this device, harvest an animal, and you were thinking they were on top of the world at that time. If you got any questions, Opie can surely answer it. I can surely answer it. You can call us at any point in time. I hope this video helps y'all in teaching your chapter guides how to use it, because all we want to do is have a true blessing to the hunters that are out there. We want them to have the greatest experience they can.
For more information on the HQ100 and other quality products for special needs, visit beadaptive.com.